Warmly welcome everyone to the Quick Tips in Microsoft Business Application series. Episode 7 D365 FinOps 10 Tips in 10 Minutes.
I've got a wonderful guest again, Julia Simpson, all the way from UK, joining with me today for another session. And today, Julia will be walking through on quick shortcuts on the Dynamics 365 FinOps. And over to you, Julia, to explain to us
Hi,
all the quick tips. Yeah, thank you.
thank you very much. It's lovely to be with you, Kason. I'm very excited. So these are my favorite top 10 quick tips. So they're all very simple things. And it's one of these situations that I always take all of these for granted. But then when I showed them, and I did one of these in front of one of our clients the other week, they were just blown away. So here are some fantastic. So let me just show my screen now. And we're going to jump through all of our lovely little tips. The first one here is about drilling back. Now, this is a fantastic little way, and if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. But every time you see one of these fields, if it is hyperlinked, you can often click on the record to drill back and go onto that customer account. Alternatively, if you just click over to the side over of the field, we have this fantastic thing called View Details. If you don't have that hyperlink, by clicking on View Details, that's then going to take us into that customer account, and we can do all sorts of stuff from within there. On to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is exporting into Excel or exporting to Excel. So there's this wonderful functionality called Open in Microsoft Office, and that's fantastic. And particularly if you want like a two-way sort of connection, you can use the Open in Excel functionality. But if you just want to do a very quick little data dump, as long as you have headers, you can export that information. Now, just if you right-click on one of the fields and you click Export All Rows. That will then take us to that screen. It's a couple less mouse clicks for you, but it's a nice little way, a quick little way of exporting your information out and into Excel, as long as you have a header record. On to tip number 3 and 4. This one is around filtering. So if you know that say for example, you want to filter on a report and you come to this inquiry screen and you need to start filtering, we have two main filters that I all use day to day. Is I might say, okay, well, I know my voucher number starts with V, but I don't know the rest. So I can do V and then what we call a wildcard, and that's a little star. So that means it'll bring through all my vouchers that start with V. Alternatively, if I want to do a date range or any sort of range, to be honest with you, so I want to have a look at journal numbers that start with 48, and then we do 2 dots, which means it's because we're going to do a range. It's the wild card for range. So then I would go any voucher numbers up between 50. So what that will do is it'll pull up all our voucher numbers between 48 and 50. So little dots and the stars. The next functionality that I have, on to the next tips, we have the date functionality. So if you have the wrong date that's in there and you need to replace it with today's date, really cute little functionality. You can either do D and then tab across, and that will bring in your current date. So we have a look at that again, because I did that a little bit quickly. The date was the 1st of the 6th. I replaced it with D, and that brought through the 7th of the 6th. It's just a quick little way of getting in information. We also have what they've brought back is the maths functionality. So if, for example, you needed to figure out the VAT percentage or the tax percentage, in Australia we have 10%. So for example, if I had an invoice for 2500 and I needed to calculate 10%, okay, 10% is a bit more simpler, but in situations where it's maybe 7% or 5% in different countries, you can always just do your basic maths percent functionality there. So you can do times, for example, and that will then give you that result. So you can do plus, minus, times, and division, all really fun little functionalities. You just need it to be a number field. So you have your number, and then you can do your basic equal signs and then the field and information from there. The next one is really, next little tip is designed for people who do a lot of data entry. You're going to talk about you tabbing. Now, it could be the case that here we are, we have an invoice that we're entering in the information. We've entered in the invoice number, we've entered in the description. We don't care about the purchase order, that's already been linked. And as you can see, where I'm tabbing, the process of the tab is quite long. If you want to speed up that process, what you can do is you can always right-click on that field and personalize it. And what we're going to do is we're going to select skip. So now that I've selected that, when I tab through, you'll notice that it didn't ask me to select that plus sign anymore. Let's focus again by using the posting date. So on posting date, I always want to skip that. I just want that to come through with the latest date. So I'm just going to click on here, right click personalize, click skip, and click out. So now having a look, I'm on invoice date, and it skips straight to date of VAT register. Nice little way of skipping through the records to make, if you're doing a lot of date entry, this does make a difference by the end of the day.
Exactly, this makes it much more faster.
When you have a purchase order, and if you need to split that order or that line between multiple dimensions, generally speaking, what we say is have multiple lines for multiple dimensions. And that way it gives it a really nice traceability. But there's also this distributor functionality. So select the line that you need to split. In this example, I've got a procurement, a non-stock PO for advertising. It's quite a large amount, and I do need that to be split amongst multiple dimensions. Rather than having multiple lines, I can go into financials and click on distribute amounts. This will then let me do a whole bunch of distributions, so I can start to split it. And then on my next one, I can choose a different dimension. And maybe I want them to have 20%. And I can, again, next one. And you can just keep on going on from there, and we'll give these guys 50%. And then we change that to 50%. Alternatively, you can also use the amount. So if it's a particular amount, you can play around with that. Our next tip is around putting a count onto your home page. For example, if you always want to know the very first time you log in, you go to your workspace and it has all your different workspace tiles. But I really want to know what my open account activities is every time I open up. So to do that, I can pin this tile. So I'm just going to click on the tile and I'm going to click on Personalize Open Activities. And from here, I want to click on Pin to Dashboard. Okay, I'll click out. And now if I click Home, and I go down to my customer invoicing, here we are, customer collections, I can see that I have 15 open activities. And that makes it, if you only have 1 or 2 workspaces or 2 or 3 workspaces, it makes it a really useful when you first log in information that you can then see. Our next one is around creating customized tiles, and I really think the tiles are a fantastic option. Here we have a view and are filtered based on the site, so I only want to see the orders for one particular site. Now I can create a lovely little tile on any of my workspaces that will then always give me that count. So to do that, I'm going to go up into the options menu at the top here, and I'm going to add it to my workspace. From here, you then choose which workspace you want it to be added to. So I'm going to choose customer invoicing. Okay, there it is, and I'll put in a tile. I'll press configure, and I'll say, okay, well, what is, what do you want this tile to be called? So I'm going to call this sales, SOs for site 1. And yes, I want to see the count because that's the most important part for me. I'll click on OK, and now if I go to my customer invoicing workspace, here we have our lovely little custom tile ready for us to then use and access. And if we click on that, that will take us through to the same filtered view. Always being able to reprint documents. Dynamics keeps all of the different versions of the documents that you can always reuse at any time. Here we have a sales order that is of the invoice status. I can always go into like the Sell tab and reprint any confirmations that have been generated. I can go into the Pick and Pack tab and reprint any of my delivery notes. But what's most useful for me is going into the Invoice tab and reprinting the invoice. So what I'll do, this functionality works from all the different phases of a sales order or a purchase order journey. I'll click on Invoice. Okay, and from within here, I can always view, and I can view a copy of it. And that what the copy does is it just does a watermark of copy. I can use the original, or I can use print management and send it off the way that it came originally. So for example, if you have it set up so the invoices automatically email to the customer, by using the use print management, it'll automatically email. Often it's more useful to use the original one because the reason why, maybe the email address has changed and you just want to reprint, or it's a one-off situation. So those are my top 10 fun facts or fun little tips that I find just make life a little bit more easy, a little bit easier, a little bit more fun within Dynamics.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Julia. Thanks for those tips. That's really wonderful. And Julia is also having her own blog, so I will leave the link to the blog in the comments for you to find out the blogs of Julia's. And thanks a lot again. Thanks once again, Julia, for joining with me today in the KPMBA show. And stay tuned for more episodes coming up. And thanks for watching the episode. Thank you.
Thank you very much.